Hello, and welcome to another NABBW Financial Podcast. Tonight, I'm with frequent guest Pam Sams to discuss our January topic, Your Financial Calendar, Setting Up the Year for Financial Success. It's business as usual for us, except that this is our first Zoom call. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. During our discussion tonight, you'll discover Pam has assigned each month a different theme, so we'll be covering 12 points, January through December. Now, before we get going with that, I'd like to take a quick moment to review 2020 before we move ahead. Because if 2020 showed us anything, it was that even with good planning, we can't assume that you're going to be prepared for everything. Even if you're a person like my mother, who's glued to television news channels 24/7, it's likely that you had very little awareness of COVID-19's initial arrival in this country, which was probably as early as January from what I've been able to tell. But once it took hold and was termed a pandemic, it didn't take very long before our lives were upended. And as you know, by March, everything changed. And whether or not you had someone in your family or you actually became ill with COVID, you were still impacted. Even with the federal government's limited efforts like the Paycheck Protection Program loans, many of us lost our sources of income and found our finances devastated. So that's why we're here tonight. We're looking to 2021 to help us get back on track. We reminded ourselves that it's essential to plan for as much as we can so that it's easier to pivot when the next unplanned event happens, because we know that it will, and we already have a fairly good idea of what to expect in 2021. Since many of us have had our financial plans bashed by the coronavirus, January finds us focused on R&R, only in this time it's recovery and restoration, hoping to be able to make a new beginning since we need the opportunity to get our lives, especially our financial lives, back on track. I think we're all encouraged by how rapidly and successfully the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines were developed and tested and produced, even though many of us probably couldn't or probably have not yet received our first shot, and we don't yet know how long the COVID protection powers will last. The fact that the vaccines exist gives us the promise, or at least the hope, that the world can start to begin to return to normal. Now, about tonight's personal financial calendar, Pam Sams knows that having a comprehensive personal financial calendar is another powerful preventive measure. In addition to helping you keep track of the days when you might be able to save money, the calendar's most crucial function is preventing you from spending more this year than you have to. For example, we can all agree that while few of us love or even look forward to paying our taxes, we know that timely filing and payment saves us from late payments or late filing fees. So a calendar is also a good, solid budgeting tool, enabling us to plan for holiday shopping and other important expenses and expenditures. But before I let Pam talk, she's been so patiently waiting, let me introduce myself. I'm Ann Holmes, your moderator and the Boomer-in-Chief of the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, an organization dedicated to educating and empowering women at midlife and beyond. And as I mentioned at the top of the call, I'm here with Pamela J. Sams, BFA, CRPC, MBA. Pam is an expert in personal finance, president of Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies in Herndon, Virginia, and a monthly guest who covers important information related to money and financial planning. She's a chartered retirement planning counselor and NABBW's retirement planning associate. Now, before we can launch into tonight's discussion, I need to play a quick audio clip just to keep us legal.
Securities offered through Securities America Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Incorporated, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Pamela Sams, investment advisor representative. Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies, Securities America Incorporated, and all other entities named are separate entities.
All right, now we're ready. How are you, Pam?
I'm doing just fine.
Excellent.
It seems like just yesterday we were doing this.
I know.
And here we are at the end of January already. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what happened to this month. So yeah, I'm happy to be here to really share the financial calendar, even though, January is almost up. It's
right.
Really good to put something in place for the rest of the year. So I'll be sharing some really good areas of each month to really
Okay.
look at some of those areas that people need to focus in on with their finances.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And as you said, we're at least halfway, slightly more than halfway through January. So let's start out with what's on your calendar for January.
Yeah, so for January, just today and tomorrow, I guess all the way into Monday, the 31st, is really to take a look at creating the your financial wellness plan for the year if you haven't done it already. So you're looking at creating your budget, setting your financial goals. In the beginning of each year, in January, people go out gun ho on really figuring out what they need to do financially with those New Year's resolutions. So I'm sure a lot of people are probably focused in on their financial goals and then setting their budget and reviewing their spending. So that's a lot of what you want to do up front in January. Some other things that happen this month as well is that there's a whole separate period for those people who are in Medicare. You have another open enrollment, what they call enrollment period for Medicare. If you didn't make any adjustments, you can still make adjustments between January and March to get out of either the original Medicare or change from not an Advantage plan, but if you want to get out of a Medicare Advantage plan back to original Medicare or make some changes with your Part D plan, you can do that between January and March.
Okay.
Most people kind of think about that that October through December, but there's still some things that you can do with Medicare during the January month as well. And then you have your W-2s that hopefully you'll get within the next few days by the end of January, that employers do need to send the W-2s to you so you can start preparing for your tax schedule. And then debt, you want to focus on that because I'm sure in the holidays and December timeframe, you probably did a lot of charging on your credit cards. So the same thing when you're looking at your budget, you want to have a debt reduction strategy so you can pay down your debt as quickly as possible. So those are really some things to look at when you're looking at, for January, is creating and resetting your budget, building the emergency fund. So if you don't have an emergency fund, you want to take an assessment there. And then really just putting those financial goals in place for what you want to achieve for the year. That's usually what I do with my clients, is to take a look, okay, what do you want to achieve for this year? So what does 2021 look like financially for you? So that would be maybe 2 or 3 financial goals that they're working on for the year.
Excellent. All right. Well then, as you said, it's less than a week till February. So what happens in February? I know I'm going to the eye doctor, but what else?
Yeah, you want to do that. So February, for those who have children, college age children, FAFSA, the free financial aid form that you need to fill out. That's usually the deadline for most colleges, is somewhere in February. So if you didn't do it in October 1st is generally the first time that you can file for the FAFSA for the next year. If you didn't do it during that time period, February is generally the time period where you want to make sure you get that in, because some of those dollars start to disappear after that period of time. So February, you want to look at that. Student loan repayment. So the Biden administration just came out and extended the student loan repayment until September. So anybody who has student loans that has been deferred, you can still pay them, of course, if you have that in your budget, but it is deferred for the student loan repayment. And then another area that I focus in on during February for a lot of people is life insurance. Now, a lot of times people go, well, what the heck? Why focus on life insurance in February? Why? It's a campaign that I partner with. It's an organization called Life Happens.
Okay.
And really focus in on the concept of insuring your love. So it's called Insuring Your Love during February, because it's February and it's Valentine's Day. Or lovey-dovey, right. And they're starting thinking about their families a little bit more. So during this time period, you want to take a look at life insurance. Do I have enough if something happens to me, is my family going to be okay without me? So it's all about ensuring your love during February. Looking at doing a life insurance review, making sure, like I said, you had enough in place.
Mhm.
If you don't have any at all, a lot of people just have insurance through their job, so you may need additional. If you had changes in your family structure, if you got remarried, or if you had children, anything that changes your financial situation, you need to reassess your life insurance at that time. So February, focus in on the life insurance. So the things in February, FAFSA, of course, for college children,
Mhm.
student loan repayment program that has been delayed. So know about that. And then, of course, the life insurance review. You want to make sure you get that done in February as well.
Excellent. So it's a short month, but lots of things to do in it.
But lots of things to do.
Right.
Exactly.
And what happens in March?
Some fun things in March. If you're self-employed, I believe you need to set up your quarterly taxes in there. You need to start doing that. This is also, since you mentioned that you're going to the eye doctor, March is also the deadline to spend your funds in your flexible spending account or your
Okay.
HSA, or you lose those dollars. Well, in the flexible spending account, not the HSA, but if you have dollars in your flexible spending account, you want to get those out by the end of March, because you'll
Okay.
lose the dollars. So go get a pair of glasses or do whatever you need to in order to do that. It's a website that I ran into called fsastore.com, and it'll give you a list of all of the things that you can pay for with the FSA on there.
All right.
And then this is also a time period where there may be some deadlines with, start thinking a little bit about the RMDs. So if you turned 72, now the deadline is, the age is 72. If you turn 72, June of last year, there was a RMD waiver last year because of COVID. But if you turned 72 in June of last year and you want to delay your RMD, you need to think about taking it by April 1st. And then you need to take another one in December 31st. So you need to take 2 RMDs for that time period. So you want to start thinking about that in March if you delayed your RMD last year, not the waiver, but if you aged into the RMD and you decided to not take it, then April 1st would be the deadline for you to do it. If you do that, then just know that you have to take it twice. You have to take one in April 1st, but you also have to take one in December 31st. Okay. So, just to start thinking about that a little bit if you fall into that category.
All right.
Okay.
Well, then I think that brings us to April, unless I'm stopping you from anything else in March.
Let's see, might take some notes there. Nope, I think we're good with March on there. But you also want to make sure as you're going along with your program, you always take an assessment of where you are. I always say that do monthly appointments with yourself to look at your finances. I call them money date nights or financial date nights or whatever you want to call it. Just setting aside some time on a month-to-month basis. Some people do it weekly. I always tell clients to, set aside some time, get a glass of wine, do whatever, because finances are a little stressful sometimes. And you want to make sure that you set aside some time to review what that month may have looked like. At least do it once a month, at least once a month. Some people will like to do it weekly. But you're taking an assessment of your situation at each time, at the end of each month to see what it looked like.
All right.
So April, we know that's the big one. So that's your taxes in April. I believe this year we're not going to get a waiver like we did last year. Last year was a fiasco when it came to that, and they had a delay of that. So as far as I know, April 15th is the tax deadline for this year. There has been a delay on filing, I believe. February, they've delayed it until a little bit before they can take the first tax returns. I believe this first week in February that they can do that. But so up until April 15th, where your tax deadline, you're collecting your information, you're getting your W-2s in January, February. Sometimes people do their taxes a little bit earlier. So you're taking time to prepare, get your documents together. Some people wait until the last minute and they file April 15th. So all the way up until April 15th, you may be taking an assessment of all of your documents and getting everything done. But April 15th is the big tax deadline for you to get your taxes done.
Okay.
So for April, I think that's the big one in April that you need.
All right. I'm got a
And
question
hopefully
about
hopefully after you've done that, you're okay and you're not sour about having to stroke a check to the IRS or or any of those things. I know it could be a happy day or sad day. Sometimes people get refunds and they're fine. If they don't, yeah, that could be a somber day for some people if they find out they owe money. If you do owe money on there, make sure that you do, either make an arrangement with the IRS to pay it in installments. If you cannot pay, you don't want to not file because you don't owe, or you owe. You're still going to owe the money regardless.
Right.
So you do need to file. Just make sure you have a way to work with the IRS to enter into a payment arrangement or, to pay it down, a payment program with them. No, don't just not file your taxes and still owe, because that's going to accrue every day that you don't pay it, or at least the time period where you have that you set up an arrangement on that. So even though you owe, make sure you make some type of arrangement with the IRS.
Right, absolutely, because they'll find you. But I've got a question.
They'll find you.
I've got a question with regard to the filing and mailing of the taxes, Pam, because we had such a big to-do with our mail-in voting about if the votes would be counted. So do we actually need to worry again about the post office if they fail to pass on the taxes that we file? Dropping them off?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I haven't heard anything about it. There has still been a delay in the mail system. I was telling a friend the other day, I was like, I just got a Christmas card probably about 3 weeks ago from a friend because the mail had been so slow. And I was like, oh my gosh. I believe with IRS, as long as it's postmarked by that date, then, regardless of when they get it, it's considered to be filed on time based on the postmark on that.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll probably be a little bit of an issue for people who want to mail them. That's why it's best, if you can, to do electronic filing, either through one of the tax services, Jackson Hewitt's or H&R Block, TurboTax, things like that, to do the electronic filing. So you don't have to worry about sticking it in the mail and getting there. Especially during this time period. Yeah.
Well, I remember that there have been years, it's been a number of years, but there have been years when I've sent my filing certified because, I wanted to make sure that it got out, but I just didn't even know if the mail is being held up, if certified was still going to end up with that it's in a box at the post office that didn't go anywhere.
Exactly. I know. I feel the same way. I've done that too, especially with business tax returns. I make sure that it's in a certified mail so I can get that receipt that they have received that. But yeah, that's a little bit of an issue that people, if they're concerned about the mail system, same thing with as with the voting last year, if you are concerned with that, make sure you file early, number one, and or do an electronic tax return.
All right, good to know, and a good thing that we have the option of electronic filing. But anything else in April?
Nothing else in April. So I think
Okay.
the tax day is big enough that most
Yes,
people, that's enough for people to handle in that particular month.
right. Okay. Well, then let's move on to May.
May is one of those months that people are like, definitely couldn't be anything going on in May. But a few things to consider there, especially for people who have children that they're saving for college. So 529 savings is on the top of the list there because you have basically May 29th. So 529. So May
Okay.
29th is 529 day.
All right.
So if you're saving for college for children, you want to focus in on that as well. This is a good time also to kind of reflect and prepare as you get transition to summer, to start thinking about some things. Maybe a little different because of COVID, so because we're not doing a whole lot of traveling or vacation. But
Hmm.
normally in a situation like that, you're starting to think about what summer is going to look like from a travel perspective in May. This is also a good time if you have children who are going to college, is to do some scholarship hunting. So, scholarship.com is a good site that you want to take a look at
Okay.
if you start, looking for scholarship for your children in May. So the 529 for college. So I would figure it's all about college savings and college planning in May.
All
The
right.
529 for college savings, then the scholarship hunting as well. And then if you're starting to think a little bit about getting your sites towards the summer, you may be looking at some getaway spots, some vacations. Like I said, COVID's a little bit different
Hmm.
because we're not doing as much of those. But I know a lot of people are getting away maybe for weekend trips here and there, some places that are safe, cabins or places like that. So May is where you start doing kind of your travel planning for the summer
Hmm.
or looking at what do you want to do for getaways.
Right. Well, I totally understand the concept of not wanting to stay in a hotel or a motel or some
Oh
kind of
yeah.
thing like that. But I actually have a friend who runs his business is all about vacation home rentals,
Oh
not
yeah.
necessarily B and B's, but people that own homes and their goal is because they live in a resort area or something that they have a
Mm,
home that they just use for rental purposes. And he's told us last month or a couple of weeks ago, he said that during this COVID time, he's had more business than he's ever
mm,
had because people feel safe going to a place like this as opposed to a
yeah.
hotel or motel where there's more traffic around you.
Exactly. And I remember when I was taking my son back to school last August or September. And so we were just like an overnight stay to take him up towards the Pittsburgh area. And so we stayed in a hotel, but we wiped everything down. We had
Hmm.
Lysol. I mean,
Right.
I just didn't feel comfortable. We bought one of those little UV
Oh,
lights, and we're
uh,
scanning sheets and we're doing all of that. And so, yes, a lot of people just don't want to deal with the hotels in that
hmm.
capacity where, yeah. So, those smaller places where there's less foot traffic, you're more inclined to take advantage of, which would be,
Right.
like you said, B&Bs or small cabins. I
Hmm.
have a couple of clients that are getting away for even the President's Day holiday, just taking a long weekend and doing one of those, cabin trips. So if
Hmm.
that's what people are doing, you have to work work smart or do things differently than we have been in the past.
Right. But with all the stress that we're under, I think people do need to have some kind of vacation of some sort if they can figure out a safe way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think so many people are, I keep reading, and probably you and myself included have had this pandemic fatigue where we're
Hmm.
just, we get it's mundane. We keep doing the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day.
Right.
It's like you wake up, you do the same thing. You go here to here to here, and you're back home. And I think a lot of people, like you said, just need a change of pace. And so
Hmm.
looking at some other options besides, just regular hotel resort type stuff.
Hmm.
They're looking at these smaller trips just to kind of get away,
I know.
to get some mental health or some things that will be able to calm what we're out of the norm, so to say.
Right. All right. Well, then when we're done with May, it's June, and June is
Mhm.
always um, graduation month, but I'm sure you've got more to it than that. So,
Yeah, June is graduation month, but it's also a time period where there's a lot of deadlines for college admissions. If you're starting to do that, the applications for people who are self-employed, we have the quarterly state, sorry, estimated tax for business during that time period. And then this is also the absolute deadline for federal financial aid. So if you um, are looking at sending your child to school in the fall, then June would be the absolute deadline for federal aid for June. Uh, but in June, this is also a time where you're starting to kind of mid-year. We're in 6 months. You want to start taking a little bit of an assessment again, halfway point of where you are financially. So you half a year is almost has already passed. What did the last 6 months look like? Am I on
mhm,
track for my savings goals? Am I on track for on my budget? Like I said, each month you're going to take an assessment of what that month looked like, and then kind of the halfway mark in June, that's where you want to take the an assessment for the whole thing for the last 6 months on what
mhm.
that looks like.
Okay.
Uh, so you're looking at that. But then, if you're doing college admissions, that's one of those things. And in a normal situation, June, like you said, is graduation, but it's also, right at during Memorial Day and the start of June, you're starting to think about your vacations again and what are you planning for the summer with the family. So I'd assume, this list is going to, live on past COVID.
Mhm.
So people need to
Right.
know these are usually some of the things to think about in June is when you start doing your vacation planning, but
Mhm.
taking a mid-year assessment of where you are financially.
All right. Well, hopefully we might be getting to a point where we could have everybody starting to be vaccinated by that summertime.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. I know, we're a little bit behind the
Hmm.
curve, but hopefully if there's some other vaccines that come online during
Right.
that time period that can speed it up, if we get more of a mass production or a way to vaccinate people more quickly, then
Right.
yes, and I think people will start to feel a little more comfortable coming out
Hmm.
of coming out of our shells and
Right.
into traveling a little bit more as
Right.
well. Yeah,
Well, I had thought I
light
had
at the
just
end of the tunnel.
heard today that Biden had President Biden, I should say,
Hmm.
had uh, authorized more funding for buying the
Yes.
vaccines. So the
Hmm.
concept being trying to get people vaccinated before it takes a whole year for us to do that. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key is kind of on a mass scale instead of the way that it has been going, but either buying more vaccine or having other players as well
mhm, right.
that's available should help really speed it along and get us like I said, light at the end of the tunnel where we can start operating the way we used
Right.
to in pre-COVID days.
Hmm.
It just seems so far away, but it's only been what 11 months, I guess, now almost. Since they first came out, or at least it was introduced, the COVID strain in the U.S. It just seems much longer, but it's only
Hmm.
been about 11 months in.
Right.
Yeah, and like you said, previously, the remarkable thing that we got a vaccine within a year
Hmm.
is even better dealing with it to hopefully get us in a better spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then your following month is this July. So now we're starting the second half of the year.
Yep. Yep. So we're starting the second half of the year. This is where you want to do your portfolio rebalancing review.
Okay.
Um, so this is your time period where you're making corrections. You don't want to get into December and then find out, things aren't on track. So mid-year, July, do a mid-year review of your portfolio, going
Mhm.
in and taking a look to see how it's performing. So opening those statements finally. I think more people are more inclined to open their statements now because the stock market's been doing really well.
Mhm.
So they're a lot happier than they were, let's say, March or April of last year to open the statements. They just didn't want to deal with it. So mid-year, you want to look
Mhm.
at the your portfolio, how it's performing. Do you need to make adjustments or changes? Are the funds performing the way you would like them to? Sometimes portfolio mutual fund companies make changes um, in their offerings. It may be something new that came online that you're not aware of, let's say in your investment portfolio or your 401k. So looking at those notifications that will come in,
Mhm.
that it may have been some adjustments and changes to the funds and that are available to you. And so if it is, or if one went away and it was replaced with something totally different, and you didn't take an assessment, and then all of a sudden that could have performed poorly, and you're like, what happened with that? Then you can make a correction mid-year in July.
Mhm.
So July, it's all about your portfolio review, consulting with your financial advisor if you have one to go over that, make sure it's tracking the way it should be in
Mhm.
July.
All right. Well, that gets us to August.
August, yep, one of the hottest days of the year.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I know. My son was born in August, so I remember when that year he was born. I think most of the days it was averaging about 98 degrees. So, so I always
Oh,
remember August as being so hot.
I totally understand that. I got my first marriage was on the 4th of August, and I married a guy who was from Green Bay. And in
Oh,
early August, the football teams start their pregame.
yes,
And so all of the people from his side of the family were gathered in the bar,
hmm,
not being at the reception because they had to watch the pre-games,
they had to watch the
Packer
pregame.
game,
Yes.
right? And so I remember just how beastly hot I was in the wedding dress. But as far as your son being born in August, I also remember I can identify a little bit with that because my son was born in April, but the year he was born, we had 80-degree weather in April. And
Oh,
I just remember all I had was winter type clothes because I thought it was not going to be that warm. And I was just dying. I had one outfit that was comfortable.
hmm.
So, so
Yeah, it was pretty hot that summer. I remember.
yeah.
But August, when you're thinking about your finances in August, a lot of times you get the tax-free days. I
Hmm.
know they have it in this region. I believe they have it all across the
They do.
country
Yeah.
where you can do that. So take advantage of the tax-free days that are available generally for back to school supplies and
Hmm.
certain items in the store. I believe it's the first weekend in August.
Hmm.
They have the tax-free days, but look out, wherever you are in your region for that in August. It's actually National Eye Exam Month in in August. So
Okay.
maybe you need to wait until August for that. But
Well,
but
Pam.
this is where you want to start taking it. I thought that was interesting. I just jotted that down. But this is where you would look at the benefits if you had, your eye benefits.
Okay.
This is also a good time to do a garage sale and start maybe making a little bit extra money, cleaning up. What do you want to donate as you start getting towards the fall and the winter months? As you start making charitable donations, whatever you're not going to sell at the garage sale, really collecting those for donations.
Hmm.
So really focused in on August on making a little bit of money with your garage
Hmm.
sale, saving a little bit of money with your tax-free days
Hmm.
as well, and then making sure you get an eye exam.
All right. Well, hopefully I don't have to go back in August for another eye exam. But
Exactly. Hopefully you don't.
all right. Anything else happening in August?
Nope. I mean, I think it's like make money, save money.
Hmm.
That's the focus in August, and hopefully, you're not in a region where it gets really hot. So
Right.
that month, I mean, to think about August, if it's really hot too, it's going to be a little bit more on your air conditioned bill. So
Hmm.
just know a little bit, you're going to pay a little bit more on those summer months. If you are in a situation where you think, and it depends on your region as well, but something to think about if you have, especially with global warming, and we don't have normal months anymore,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But if you want to take advantage of, I know in certain areas they have what they call the utility kind of payment plan where you can do it all across and
Hmm.
average
Right.
your bills across the months, so you don't have spikes in
Hmm.
your utility bills. That's something to consider, especially if you start running the air condition a little bit, sooner than you would like. I believe it was last year. I think we ended up turning on the air condition way too soon,
Hmm.
and we definitely saw some increases in our electric bill during that time period. So
Right.
if you don't want to kind of keep going through those peaks and valleys with your utilities during the year, you may want to consider one of those payment programs where you
Hmm.
just kind of they take the average months and then you pay consistently that same amount, even though let's say you're paying for your electric bill and or your heating bill a little bit earlier than you
Hmm.
would normally do. You're kind of prepaying it on certain months that you would normally wouldn't have a high electric bill, sorry, heating bill,
Hmm.
but it averages out over those particular time periods. So that actually saves you money versus kind of these peaks and valleys in your utilities throughout the year.
Okay. Good thing to keep in mind. And I have taken advantage of it in the past. And
Mhm.
I do agree that it's a lot better than opening that bill and going, I spent what? You
I
know?
know. I know, and it's phenomenal when you open
Hmm.
it up. It's like I use that much,
Right.
especially here with water. It's like I was like
Right.
I use that much.
Right.
So I'm telling my husband, hey, if you're not, why are you running the water when you're not? One of my pet peeves is he's running the shower and he's
Hmm.
still doing stuff at the sink. I'm like, don't turn on the water until you're ready to get in there.
Yes. All those things that it would be nicer not to have to think about. So,
Exactly, definitely.
okay. So that brings us to September, which once upon a time was when school started, but probably a lot of kids start in August these days.
Yeah, a lot of kids are starting in August. September is the time period you may get some Medicare notice changes. So for people who are Medicare, they will send out kind of what's coming down the pike with your Medicare plan. So you
Hmm.
may receive some notification changes in September. This is also a good time to do buy older model things. So older models of TVs, cell phones, cars, because they're getting in the new inventory. So you will be able to you may be able to get some really good deals during September if you buy the older model of it. So you don't
Okay.
need the iPhone 12, the iPhones 11s go on sale, the iPhone 10s, all of that. So look out for deals and bargains in September because the older models um, will start going on sale because
Hmm.
they need to make room for the new inventory on that. So you may be able to save a few dollars just buying the one previous model prior to it. Um, it depends on some people because some people like the latest and the greatest. But if you don't care about that,
Hmm.
buy buy something that's comparable, but may be able to save you a little bit money as well. September is actually also Natural Preparedness Month, so this is a good time to check uh, your plan on in your home, your fire extinguishers, if you have fire ladders, all of that. um, if you don't have those items, make sure you get those and put those in your house. So focus on being prepared, if in the event that something happened, a fire, emergency, what you work on your plan on how people will exit your home safely,
Mhm.
as well. You want to take an assessment because it's Natural Preparedness Month. Look at your homeowner's insurance, see what it covers in the event that there was a fire or damage to your home, that the deductibles and the replacement costs are comparable,
Mhm.
especially in this region where there's home values have been going crazy. Um, your homeowner insurance may not have caught up with the home values
Okay.
that you when you first bought it.
Mhm.
Uh, so September, because it's Natural Preparedness Month, is also a good time to look at your homeowner's policy, just to uh, clarify what the deductibles are, what the replacement value in the event that there was a fire emergency or damage to your home.
All right. That's a good thing to keep track of, because who wants to have a fire and then find out, well, we're only going to give you half of your house back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's one of those things that most people with insurances, it's a set it and forget it. You
Mhm.
get it the first time, you just keep paying it either through the premiums through your mortgage if it's combined, or you pay it separately, but you never really investigate and go do anything differently unless your insurance agent calls you and say, hey, it's time to do that. Most people don't do that on their own. So if you
Mhm.
kind of pinpoint a certain month to take a look at it, then it may be more top of mind to take an assessment of that.
All right. Well, then, now we come to October,
Hmm.
which is starting to be fall-like. We have Halloween and
Yes, we have all of that, and then I'm sure a lot of people are spending money on, on Halloween. Don't spend all of that money on Halloween. So October, you get, of course, October 15th is the tax extension deadline. So if you didn't file in April and you're like, I really needed more time, October 15th is the tax extension deadline. So
okay.
IRS wants the tax return at that point. No more extensions. This is also a time period where there's open enrollment in your at your employer. So if your employer has open enrollment, reevaluate what's available to you from your benefits program, the life insurance, disability, health insurance, all of that comes in during October and open enrollment. For Medicare, this is the annual enrollment period starts, AEP,
Mhm.
October 15th through December 7th. They give you that little short window to make a decision on, what you need to do with your health care for Medicare. So that opens in October. And for people who have college-age children, October 1st is the first time that you can file the FAFSA form, the federal aid form for the next year.
Okay.
So for October of this year, you're looking at basically fall of 2022.
I'm not used to it being 2021 yet, but okay.
I know. Exactly. I'm still, I think the other day I ended up writing 2020 on something else. Oh my gosh. I think it was a running joke. It's like nobody's ever going to remember 2020. Everybody wants to get out of that month.
Right.
And I mean, that year. So nobody's writing 2020 anything.
Mhm. No,
But I ended up doing that.
well, I've been really careful, but I'm sure it'll happen because sometime I'll just not be thinking it, it'll happen. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's
So,
so that would be October. So tax deadline, the FAFSA form, first time you can do that, and then of course the Medicare um, annual enrollment period starts on October 15th for those people who are want to make adjustments, of course, to their Medicare Advantage plan. If you age into Medicare, you get a separate time frame. So if you age into Medicare, I know most people, it's probably out of the scope of this call, but just kind of to recap, when you first age into Medicare, you have the 3 months before and 3 months prior to your 65th birthday. And then, of
mhm,
course, the month that you turn 65. So you get 7 months.
mhm.
And then those people who are already on Medicare, if they want to make adjustments to their program, enroll in a different plan. So if they want to go from original Medicare to a Medicare Advantage plan, which is Part C, you can do that between October 15th and December 7th. And also enroll in a Part D prescription drug plan during that time period too. So lots to do in October.
All right. Well, that brings us to the month of November.
Yep. So November, this is where you want to start taking an assessment of your flexible savings account and your HSAs on what that's going to look like. You want to start looking at the possibility of using some of those dollars. I mean, you do have until March to use them. But if you need to start taking an assessment of what you need to do with your dollars, you want to take advantage during November. So you're taking an assessment. This is also a time period where you're starting to look at your investments a little bit more, to start thinking about what you want to do in terms of tax moves. So if you have money that's in an account that's not, of course, IRAs or anything else, anything outside of that you want to take a capital loss against, this is the time period where you start identifying those investments that you wanted to take a loss before December 31st. So you're looking at your portfolio and start identifying those tax moves that you want to make.
All right. And anything else in November?
Nope. And then eat plenty of turkey, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
But I think it was last year, maybe not because it was kind of scaled back last year, but that was one of the things that they had mentioned, I think the previous year, is that they outlined how much people spent on a Thanksgiving meal. I can't remember the dollar amount, but people spend so much on Thanksgiving. I know it was scaled back a little bit last year. But you may want to economize a little bit on what you're doing and splurging on for Thanksgiving. Just making sure it's in your budget. I know it's once a year thing, but you don't want to go too much out of your budget, for your Thanksgiving meal. So if you're able to use maybe some coupons or buy some things a little bit earlier, maybe some of the canned things, and just kind of stock up and then look at it that way.
All right. I'm thinking back to what November was like. Because by that time I was fairly good at the ordering my stuff from Walmart and just having to go pick it up. But I remember that I wanted a turkey breast. I didn't want to do the whole turkey thing. I just wanted a turkey breast. And I ended up, they delivered me a whole turkey. And I remember going, I don't want a whole turkey, but I cooked it.
Yes.
And I don't know how you take stuff back in these kind of days that we've been living through. So, they put a frozen turkey in my trunk and I said, okay, I guess I have to have a whole turkey.
I have to fix a whole turkey. Yeah, they're not taking anything back these days. It's like, nope, good luck with that turkey. That's about it.
Yes, right. Yes, I remember I had to run some errands after I did the delivery, and when I got to a certain point, I had to go in my trunk to get something for one of the errands, and that's when I discovered that I had a whole turkey back there. And I'm sitting there out of town going, oh no, not what I wanted. But
and especially, anyway. Because we didn't end up getting, I think we got some a prepackaged meal, because, you know, all of the kids didn't come home this year because I wanted them to stay in their own little bubbles. So yes, if you had a whole turkey and you didn't have the volume of people.
No, that's why I just wanted a turkey breast, because I just wanted to have a 2-person dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you had turkey for like a long time.
A lot longer than I intended.
You probably had so many variations of turkey hash and turkey this, that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's a tale for telling my grandchildren. And we'll move on here to talking about December.
Yes, December. This is the time period where, of course, you're going to take an assessment of your whole financial calendar, how it went for the year, if you were on track, if you followed it, those sort of things. Also, RMDs. So they're back into play this year. Last year, like I said, they had a waiver that they gave for RMD, but on a typical year, you have to take your required minimum distribution by December 31st. IRS is that's a no for them. If you don't take it, it's, a 50% penalty of what you didn't take. So you want to make sure you take it by December 31st of that year. This is the time period you're also doing donations. So getting those donations together, either, clothing, monies, whatever you're going to give. Get a tax receipt so you can write it off on your taxes. It's varied now because we don't get as much as we had in the past on charitable deductions, but there's still a little bit that you can do during that time period. This is also the time where you're looking at your deductibles and co-pays on your health insurances. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but because of that, you may want to take a look at getting some medical procedures done in December that you put off to fit into that deductibles and co-pays before you have to go all the way back and start again in January. So this would be a good time to get those done, your medical procedures.
Oh, that totally makes sense. My husband is going to be 65 in March. So he decided that for this year, for January, February, March, he was going to go with a different health insurance plan that was really, high deductible and much less monthly premium, because he was only going to have it going on for 3 months. And then of course pray that he stayed healthy through the whole thing.
Exactly.
And so far it's worked for him, but it's the concept with he said the same thing. He wanted me to see if I could get his monthly prescriptions. He has 2 prescriptions that he gets every month. They're just maintenance things. So he wanted to see if he could get the pharmacy to give him like 3 months worth in December, so he wouldn't have to pay the higher price. And of course they wouldn't do it. So he was unhappy about that. But I guess if you went for a medical procedure, that would be a different thing than trying to get the pharmacy to say.
Exactly. But that's most people don't think about that, but that's where you look at where your deductibles and your co-pays are before they reset for the year, and it may be a good time to do that. Of course, at the end of each year, I always have the recommendation to review your portfolio once again. This is the time where you want to rebalance. So of course, July would be mid-year. December is the end of the year. Follow that year-end checklist that I always talk about at the end of each year on, what my portfolio did. Do I need to make any adjustments and changes? How do I put it back to what it was previously, especially at the end of last year? We had such a roller coaster with the stock market. It was down at the beginning of the year, and then we were way up at the end of the year. Some things probably got out of whack with your portfolio. So this is a time period where you want to go and put it back to where it was pre-March of last year, just in case. So at the end of this year, depending on what the stock market is going to continue to do, you want to take an assessment of making those adjustments and changes at the end of each year. So and then looking at the rates of return, did it perform the way it should based on what you did mid-year? If you made adjustments and changes, so from July to December, what did it look like from there? Of course, January to July, what did it do? And then a comprehensive look at the whole year for that. So that's December.
All right. Very good. Now, this is our first time doing the Zoom call, and you are in control as opposed to the normal way where I'm in control. So I have to ask you, do you have any questions from any of our listeners?
It does not look like we have any questions that came in.
Okay.
For that. Nope. So no questions. So I think we must have covered everything that we had to talk about tonight. But a few things that I wanted to add that I didn't was throughout the year, you also want to take a look at if you need to replace any appliances or anything in your home, so any major home projects. So I always ask at the beginning of each year for my clients, are there any major home improvement projects or things that are going to go awry? So you can plan accordingly. So if you need to set aside monies throughout the year, so your washer is on its last leg and it could be out of warranty. You want to set aside money at the beginning of the year just in case you need to replace your appliance, let's say September, when you want to buy the older model of something. So you would put that in place so you save that money during that time period. Same thing with home improvement projects. If you want to put a new deck on, what that's going to look like, start getting the quotes from the contractor, what type of materials you're going to need. So really starting to get what that is, and then how you're going to pay for it. Are you going to finance it? You're going to put some down. That would be also the time period where you put that into place as one of the financial goals. You don't want to just kind of be out there willy-nilly. It's like, oh, I need a new deck, and then not know how to pay for it. So if that's something that's on your agenda as one of your financial goals for the year, put a plan in place to chunk it out, how much you need to set aside for each month. If you're going to self-finance it on your own out of pocket through savings, or if you're going to finance it, how much the interest rate's going to be for the financing, and then what the payments are going to be, because that eventually is going to end up in your budget. That now you have a $250 payment for the deck for the next 5 years or 6 years or however long it takes to pay that off. So make sure that gets into your budget as well. So home improvement projects, and then also replacement costs of anything, any replacement costs of any items that are going bad. So take a look at inventory. I know I just recently did that. Is that I've been in this house for since 2012, so 9 years. And just when I went to go look at something, it went all the way bad, but I thought, I was going to have to replace my water heater. And then I went to go find out it was out of the warranty for the home where we had our home built. It was out of warranty by a year. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So now if I replace this, I'm going to have to come out of pocket for that versus, under the original warranty, which was, basically, 10 years, or I'm sorry, 7 years. And now I'm in year 9. So last year was year 8, and I went to go look at it, and I was like, oh my gosh. So if you can take an inventory of things on kind of when they're out of warranty, when you think they're going to, you're going to need to replace it, then that way you're not surprised on all of a sudden I got to replace my roof, or I got to replace, my washer and dryer, or, my furnace and things like that. So if it's top of mind where those dates and keep them cognizant, you don't have to worry about, you have to worry about how you're going to pay for it, but you won't be surprised that all of a sudden now it's a big expenditure in your budget that you hadn't planned for.
Well, actually, I haven't had to buy a hot water heater yet, although I should. I've just been putting it off because mine isn't working as well as it used to. And I called in a plumber for a quote on it. and they told me this ridiculous price for a hot water heater. And I said, how could it be that much? And they said, because some new laws a couple of years ago had gone into effect. And so now hot water heaters cost significantly more than they did at the time that that house that you're in was first getting a hot water heater. So at the moment I'm babying mine along because I'm trying to put off. Well, I try to find the money to save for the new hot water heaters. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know and regulations changed. That was the thing with my water heater as well. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost that, and luckily enough, it was just a small, piece that I needed. And I have a friend who, husband's a plumber, so he did the repairs for me. But I thought I was going to have to replace the whole thing. And yes, those prices for the replacement was more out of warranty because of those new regulations with water regulations and all of that since that time period. So yeah, planning accordingly for, things that may go awry in your home. As well in your budget for your financial calendar over the year, so what needs to be replaced, how much is going to cost, do I have it in cash reserve, do I have it in my emergency fund, if not, how long is it going to take me to finance, do I want to put some down and then chunk it out on a payment, but then you're going to have to factor in the payment in your budget as well.
Very true. Well, I think you've given us a wonderful overview of month-to-month financial things that we need to keep track of. As I did in one of my Facebook posts where I was advising people about the call, I said, well, we all know about April 15th, but there's so many more things that we need to keep track of than April 15th. So thank you, Pam. As usual, you've covered a wonderful amount of content, and you're a wonderful guest, and I appreciate you being here on this first Zoom call, especially since you ended up running it instead of me. But hopefully for next month, I will have figured out how to run it myself. But again, thanks for this excellent financial advice in a handy calendar format. And it looks to me, looking ahead on my calendar, that our next discussion will be Thursday, the 25th of February, at the same time. And of course, it will be another Zoom call.
Yes.
And for those of us who are people who are listening to Pam and me, we hope that you'll join us then. Meanwhile, Pam, is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up the call?
Nope, I think that's it. Like you said, I think most people kind of fix themselves on April 15th as the day because I think it's either, like I said, either a happy day or a traumatic day. But there's so much more, and I always recommend people put together a financial calendar for each year. What those financial goals are, what those big ticket items are going to be. Take advantage of things that may be on sale when you have the opportunity. I know we did a call several years ago where we talked about the opportune time to buy different items. This would be the same type of thing to keep those things top of mind. So you save money, you're not going to waste any money. You have the proper deadlines to get things in, because if you delay sometimes on filling in the proper paperwork, that can cost you money. So put it down on your calendar, make sure you take action on those.
All right, excellent. Great advice. Now, speaking to our listeners, thanks to you as well for joining us on this great call with Pamela J. Sams. And if you have any questions for her after the call, you can feel free to email her. It's Pamela at jacksonsams.com. That's JACKSONSAMS.com. You can go to our website, www.jacksonsams.com. And if you'd like to know more about the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, check out our website at nabbw.com. We have a forum at boomerwomenspeak.com where there's not too much going on in the forum, but there's tons of content there. Well, you'll just have to go and look at it. I'm not going to take time now to go into what kind of content that is. And we have a pretty active Facebook page at facebook.com/NABBW. So thank you, Pam, again. Thanks
Thank you
to our listeners for joining us tonight. And that's it for our January call. So I'll just say good night.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.